If you're a US citizen, a green card holder, or someone still waiting for approval, today's topic matters. Because yes, there are real situations where a person can lose their US citizenship, and many people don't realize how it actually works. My goal today isn't to create fear, it's to bring clarity. When you understand the rules, you feel more prepared, more confident, and more in control of your journey. Every day, policies shift, processing times change, new announcements come out, and there are small details that can sometimes make a big difference. In this episode, we're going to talk about the truth behind losing citizenship, how it happens, who it affects, and what it really means, while also looking at key immigration updates that may impact applicants, families, workers, and students around the world. And as always, this is not legal advice. I'm not a government official or an attorney. I'm simply here to help you understand information in a simple, calm, and supportive way so you don't feel lost or overwhelmed. A lot of people believe that once you become a US citizen, nothing can ever change. You get your passport, you vote, you feel settled, and it seems permanent. But the reality is a little more complicated. Citizenship in the United States is incredibly strong, but it isn't completely bulletproof. There are specific laws, clear processes, and careful systems that review cases where something may not have been done correctly. That doesn't mean the government is constantly looking for ways to take citizenship away. It means citizenship is taken seriously, and the path to getting it must be honest and lawful from start to finish. Before we talk about the reasons someone can actually lose citizenship, it's important to understand who is considered a citizen in the first place. Some people are citizens by birth. They were born in the United States or in certain US territories, or they were born outside the country but had at least one American parent who could pass citizenship to them. Others become citizens through naturalization, which means they were not born American, but they went through the immigration process, lived in the country legally, passed exams, took the oath, and earned citizenship. Both groups are citizens. Both have rights. Both share protections under the Constitution. But there is one important difference in how the law views their history. For people born as US citizens, their status is usually very secure. In almost all situations, it cannot be taken away unless there was major fraud involving identity or birth records from the very beginning, and that is extremely rare. For naturalized citizens, there is a record of applications, interviews, background checks, and forms. If much later, the government discovers that something critical in that process was intentionally hidden or falsified, they have the legal power to review it again. That doesn't mean mistakes automatically remove citizenship. It doesn't mean small errors ruin your life. Reviews usually focus on intentional deception, not confusion, language difficulty, or honest misunderstandings. So, as we move forward, I want you to keep one thing in mind. Most people never face citizenship problems. The stories you sometimes hear are often connected to serious fraud, criminal deception, or choices that directly conflict with loyalty to the United States. Let's start with the situation that surprises many people because it isn't scary at all. In fact, it's completely voluntary. The first real way someone can lose US citizenship is by choosing to give it up. This is called renunciation, and it is not something that happens casually or by accident. You can't lose citizenship because you were frustrated or because you moved abroad or because you posted something online saying you don't want to be American anymore. Renunciation is a very formal process that happens face to face at a US embassy or consulate outside the United States. You meet with an official, you sign detailed paperwork, and you take an oath stating clearly that you understand what you're doing. There is also a significant fee, and once it is complete, it is permanent. There is no undo button. People choose to renounce for different reasons. Some live permanently in another country and feel fully settled there. Others are trying to simplify taxes or financial systems. Some do it for personal, political, or identity reasons. Whatever the reason is, the key detail is that it is always a personal decision. No one is forced into it. And when someone renounces, they lose the ability to vote. They lose automatic entry into the United States, and they may need a visa in the future if they ever want to visit. For most people, this step never becomes part of their life. It is rare, intentional, and carefully documented. And I want to say this clearly. Simply living abroad, having dual citizenship, or staying overseas for a long time does not automatically take your citizenship away. Renunciation happens only when someone specifically chooses it and completes the process. Now, the next situation is where many people begin to feel anxious. So I want to walk slowly, carefully, and calmly. Yes, the government can remove citizenship in certain circumstances, but it usually happens for one reason: serious fraud during the naturalization process. This is called denaturalization, and it does not apply to everyone. It does not happen randomly. It does not happen because someone forgot a date or made a small mistake on a form years ago. Denaturalization usually happens when the government discovers that a person intentionally hid something major while applying for citizenship. That might include using a different identity, concealing a criminal past, hiding involvement in violent groups, or lying about events that were central to the decision to approve the application. When something like that is discovered, it doesn't get handled quietly or secretly. It becomes a legal process in federal court. The person has the right to know what is happening. They have the right to respond. They have the right to be represented. And nothing happens overnight. There is evidence, arguments, review, and decisions made by judges. I know this topic can sound frightening, but here is the truth that often gets lost in rumors. Most citizens never experience denaturalization because most people went through their immigration journey honestly. Even if English was difficult, even if paperwork was confusing, even if mistakes were made by accident, the focus is usually on clear, intentional deception, not misunderstanding. Another thing that often surprises people is that there is no set time limit. The government can look back at older files if something serious comes to light later, but again, that does not mean they are constantly searching for reasons to remove citizenship. What it means is that citizenship is treated as something precious, something that must be earned truthfully. If you followed the process, told the truth, showed your records, and answered honestly, then most of the time you have nothing to fear. And even when cases do happen, they are not about punishing people who are trying their best. They are about correcting situations where citizenship was granted based on information that turned out to be false. There is another area that often creates confusion and sometimes unnecessary fear, and it has to do with associations, the groups people join, and the choices they make after becoming U.S. citizens. In very specific cases, citizenship can be questioned when someone becomes involved with organizations that are openly hostile to the United States or that support violence against the government. This isn't about opinions, disagreements, or expressing criticism. It isn't about peaceful activism, religion, culture, or belonging to community organizations. What usually matters here is intent and alignment with groups whose goals directly involve overthrowing or harming the United States. In the past, there have been cases where people joined extremist organizations, helped hostile governments, or took roles that clearly worked against U.S. national security. When something like that happens, the government may review whether the person's original oath of allegiance, the promise they made when they became a citizen, was sincere. Sometimes this review happens within the first few years after naturalization because the law assumes that behavior shortly after citizenship may reveal the person's true intentions at the time they applied. But I want to slow down here and emphasize something very important. This does not apply to most people. Living abroad does not cause this. Visiting another country does not cause this. Having strong cultural, family, or emotional ties to your homeland does not cause this. Even holding firm political views does not automatically place someone at risk. These situations usually involve extreme circumstances, and they are reviewed carefully, slowly, and through the legal system, not through rumors, assumptions, or social media posts. If you came to the United States, worked hard, followed the law, took the oath with sincerity, and built your life honestly, then you are not the type of person these laws are meant to target. They exist for rare, serious cases, not everyday citizens living normal lives. So, if you ever hear dramatic headlines or exaggerated stories, take a breath. Ask whether the situation involved violence, deception, or direct harm to the United States. In most cases, the answer explains why it happened. Now, let's talk about something much more common and sometimes misunderstood: dual citizenship. Millions of Americans hold two passports today. Many were born in one country and later naturalized in the United States. Others were born in America to parents from somewhere else, and they inherited citizenship from both nations. For the most part, the United States allows dual citizenship, and it does not automatically place anyone at risk. You can visit your family, maintain your cultural roots, travel back and forth, and even feel connected to both countries at the same time. That is normal, and for many families, it is a gift. However, there are rare situations where dual citizenship becomes complicated. These usually involve taking a formal position in another government or swearing an oath that explicitly rejects loyalty to the United States. For example, if someone becomes a high-ranking official in a foreign government that conflicts with U.S. interests, or they sign documents declaring exclusive allegiance to another nation, the government may review whether they still intended to remain fully committed to their U.S. citizenship. Even then, it is not automatic. There is analysis, there are questions, there is legal review. Simply renewing a foreign passport, voting in some foreign elections, or maintaining family ties usually does not threaten citizenship. The key question is intention, whether the person meant to abandon their American identity in a formal, legal way. So if you hold two passports, breathe. For most people, it is perfectly fine. Travel, study, work, care for your loved ones, and stay connected to your heritage. The law is not designed to punish people for honoring their background. It is designed to look at very specific, rare behaviors that directly contradict the oath made during naturalization. And as always, if anyone is ever unsure about a complex situation, the safest step is to get professional guidance, not because you should be afraid, but because clarity brings peace of mind. There is one more category that often gets mentioned in movies, headlines, and dramatic conversations, and that is the idea of losing citizenship because of treason or actions against the United States. This is the most extreme and the rarest situation of all. In very limited cases, a person can face both criminal charges and the possible loss of citizenship if they actively work as an agent for an enemy government, support armed rebellion, or commit treason. These cases are not common everyday situations. They involve serious investigations, clear evidence, and long legal processes that go through federal courts. Nothing happens quickly, nothing happens quietly. A judge must review everything. The person has rights. The system is designed to be strict, careful, and deliberate. For most people watching this scenario will never come close to their life. Studying abroad, disagreeing with policies, criticizing leaders, posting opinions online, or having strong emotions about global events does not equal treason. Everyday worries, travel plans, family visits, and political opinions do not lead to citizenship loss. When we talk about treason, we are talking about rare, extreme actions with deep consequences, and they are carefully proven before any decision is made. I share this not to alarm you, but to remind you that most citizens live their entire lives without ever hearing the word treason applied to anything around them. The laws exist because every country protects itself, but they are rarely used and they are not designed to target ordinary people simply living their lives, raising families, working, studying, and contributing. Now, let's take a moment to talk about people who were born in the United States. This is another area where rumors often create unnecessary panic. If you were born in the United States or in most U.S. territories and you received citizenship at birth, your status is generally very strong and protected under the Constitution. In nearly every situation, your citizenship cannot be taken away simply because you traveled, lived abroad, made mistakes, or experienced immigration issues with family members. For US-born citizens, the only extremely rare exception involves fraud at the very beginning. Things like falsified birth records, fabricated identities, or organized scams where documents were intentionally created to show a birth in the United States when it did not actually happen. These situations are hard to prove. They involve deep investigations, and they usually come from long-running fraud rings rather than everyday families. So again, if you were born here, your citizenship is not fragile. It is not something that disappears because of misunderstandings or because your parents were not citizens at the time. The law is designed to protect people born in the country. And when rare fraud cases do arise, they go through courts, evidence, appeals, and long reviews, not quick decisions and not guesses. I want you to hear that clearly because so many viewers write to me saying they heard something online and now they're afraid. The truth is, most of the time, there is nothing to fear. Awareness is helpful, panic is not. Now that we've covered the rare and specific situations where citizenship can be questioned, I want to gently shift our focus to something that affects far more people every single day. Immigration updates, processing times, and the ongoing wait that so many families, students, and workers are dealing with right now. If you are waiting on a decision, I know the process can feel slow, uncertain, and sometimes unfair. You check your case status, you refresh your email, you hear different stories from friends and social media, and it becomes confusing very quickly. That's why I like to explain things in simple language without panic and without hype, just clear information so you know what to expect. Across many categories, USCIS continues to work through backlogs that built up over several years. Some cases are moving faster than people expected, while others are taking longer than the posted timelines. For example, some employment-based applications and work permits in certain offices have improved, while family-based petitions in busy regions still face delays. This doesn't mean anything is wrong with your case. It usually means the local office is handling thousands of files at the same time, and each one must be checked carefully. When you see case actively being reviewed, it often simply means your file is in the queue, not forgotten, and when you see no updates for months, that is frustrating, but it is still normal. The best thing you can do is continue keeping your documents organized, watch your online account, and respond quickly if USCIS ever asks for more evidence. You don't need to refresh your status every hour. You don't need to compare your case to everyone else's. Each timeline is slightly different, and silence does not automatically mean bad news. Another important area many people ask about involves visas. Students, workers, visitors, and families hoping to travel. Let's start with work visas. Categories like H-1B, L-1, and related dependent remain highly requested, and when demand is high, processing sometimes feels slow. Some applicants receive approvals quickly, especially if premium processing is used, while others wait longer for background checks or administrative review. Again, delays don't always signal denial. Sometimes it simply means more verification is happening behind the scenes for students, especially those on F1 visas. The biggest thing to remember is planning ahead. Schools, embassies, and USCIS all operate on timelines that must align. Maintaining full-time enrollment, following your program rules, and staying in touch with your school's international office are some of the simplest ways to avoid unnecessary problems. And for visitors on B1 or B2 visas, officers are mainly looking for clarity, clear travel plans, proof you intend to return home, and honesty about why you are visiting. There is no perfect script. There is only being truthful, prepared, and calm. Family members traveling or applying for visas often experience emotional stress because their plans involve weddings, illnesses, reunions, and important life events. Sometimes interviews get delayed, sometimes documents are requested again, sometimes travel plans need adjusting. I know that can sting, I know it feels personal, but in most situations, these delays are procedural, not punishment. Staying patient, responding carefully, and avoiding panic reactions usually helps more than anything else. And when something feels confusing, it's always better to seek trusted guidance rather than rely on rumors. When we talk about immigration, one of the biggest topics on people's minds is the green card process. For many families and workers, a green card represents stability, long-term security, and the chance to truly build a future in the United States. But the journey can be slow. Processing times depend on the category, the country of origin, and the local office handling the case. Some people receive interview notices faster than expected, while others wait much longer than they imagined. Neither experience is unusual. In family-based categories, especially for spouses and immediate relatives, processing has improved in some locations, while other field offices still have noticeable backlogs. Employment-based categories continue to shift as visa numbers open and close during the year. Sometimes priority dates move forward, sometimes they pause, sometimes they even move backward. And when that happens, people feel discouraged, but this movement is part of how the system balances demand. And it doesn't mean your dream has disappeared, it simply means the timeline has changed. Interviews are another part of this journey that can create anxiety. Many viewers write to me and say, "Sophia, I'm scared. What if I say something wrong? What if I forget a detail?" Interviews are not designed to trap people, they exist to confirm information and make sure records match. Officers usually ask about your relationship, your work, your address, your history, and basic life details. Honesty is always the safest path. If you don't remember something exactly, it is better to explain that calmly than to guess or make something up. And if USCIS needs more documents, they will usually request them officially. That step can feel frustrating, but it is normal. It doesn't automatically mean denial. It often simply means they need clearer proof before making a final decision. Keeping copies, staying organized, and approaching each step with patience helps more than anything else. Travel is another area where people worry, especially if they have pending cases. Before traveling, it is important to understand what type of status you have and whether you are allowed to leave and return. Many people traveling on advanced parole or with certain pending applications need to follow instructions carefully. Carry your documents, allow extra time at airports, be prepared to answer simple questions at the border. Officers are looking for clarity, not perfection. If you are visiting the United States on a temporary visa, the same idea applies. Be honest about the reason for your trip. Explain your ties to your home country. Show that your plans match your visa category. There is no secret trick and there is no magic phrase. Calm, honest communication is usually the strongest foundation. Sometimes travelers experience secondary inspection or extra questioning. When that happens, it can feel intimidating, but in many cases, it is routine. Officers may need to verify something in the system, confirm identity, or review previous travel records. Being respectful, patient, and cooperative goes a long way. I know the waiting room moments can feel endless, but most people are eventually cleared and continue their journey. And it's important to remember that border decisions are about rules, not personal judgment of your worth or your story. As we look at the bigger picture, immigration today is full of moving parts. Policies change, forms update, fees sometimes increase, and digital systems continue to expand. USCIS has been using more online tools for uploading documents, checking case status, and receiving notices. That can feel convenient for some people and confusing for others. If you ever feel lost, take your time. Read instructions slowly. Check details before submitting. And don't feel pressured by rumors that say, if you don't do this right now, your case will be ruined. Most of the time, there is space to breathe and space to correct honest mistakes. I also want to acknowledge the emotional side of all this. Waiting for a visa, a work permit, or a green card isn't just paperwork. It's your life. It's your plans, your family, your education, and your future. Some days feel hopeful, other days feel heavy, and that's completely human. If you ever feel discouraged, remind yourself that millions of people have walked this road before you. Many waited longer than they expected and still eventually reached the place they were trying to go. Staying informed doesn't remove all stress, but it does help you feel more grounded and prepared. As we bring everything together, I want to return to the main truth behind today's topic. U.S. citizenship is powerful, meaningful, and deeply protective, but it also carries responsibilities and legal structures that exist for a reason. The title of this video may sound serious, and yes, there are real situations where someone can lose their citizenship. But as we've seen, those situations are rare, very specific, and almost always connected to clear intent, fraud, or choices that directly conflict with the promise someone made when they became a citizen. For most people, people who followed the rules, told the truth, and built their life honestly, citizenship is secure. Awareness is important, but fear is not necessary. At the same time, the immigration process, whether it involves visas, green cards, travel, or naturalization, can be long, detailed, and sometimes confusing. Processing times shift, rules sometimes change, interviews get delayed, notices arrive when you least expect them, and through all of that, you may feel worried about making mistakes. I want you to hear this clearly. Confusion is normal. Questions are normal. Feeling impatient, frustrated, or tired is normal. What matters most is staying informed, staying truthful, and staying patient with yourself. Whenever we talk about immigration systems, it can be easy to think of everything as paperwork and regulations. But behind every case number, there is a real human being. There is a student trying to build a future, a parent fighting for family unity, a worker contributing skills, a spouse waiting to live under the same roof again. And there are citizens, both naturalized and born here, who sometimes feel unsure about what the laws actually mean. If you are one of them, remember that learning is power. Understanding how things work gives you clarity, and clarity helps you make calm, thoughtful decisions. Throughout today's update, I've shared information, not legal advice and not predictions, because immigration journeys are personal and unique. If you ever face a complicated situation, getting professional help can bring reassurance. And if everything is going smoothly, staying informed helps you remain confident and prepared. Whether you are at the beginning of your immigration path or already living as a US citizen, your story matters and you deserve truthful, respectful information. So here's the gentle takeaway I hope you leave with today. US citizenship is not something that disappears easily. It is strong, it is protected, it is honored. And while rare exceptions exist, they are handled carefully and through long legal processes, not rumors and not fear. At the same time, visas, green cards, and immigration procedures require patience, organization, and awareness. And even when the road feels slow, many people do eventually reach the outcome they hoped for. If today's update helped you feel more informed or more calm, I'm truly glad. Immigration journeys can be stressful, but staying aware step by step helps you stay prepared. If you'd like to receive more daily updates about US immigration, visas, citizenship, and travel, you're welcome to stay connected here. And if you have a question or experience to share, feel free to leave it in the comments. Your story may comfort or guide someone else who is watching and feeling the same worries you once felt. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I'm Sophia, and I appreciate your trust and your presence. Take care. Stay hopeful.